Alright, people, here it's May 18, 2018. My title here is The Torah of Moses. And with my lots of searching, I thought yesterday that maybe the Most High did make many people at one time. As I have hinted at in times past, like maybe about last year, I did a few videos suggesting stuff like that. But I don't really know. Torah says he made man, Adam, and then a woman came, and then they had children after that. And then if you look at the same Torah in another way, other people say that he made many, many people at the same time, and then Adam was some special man that was singled out. There's different stuff out there. I don't know. But sometimes, and more, it does seem like he would have made many people at the same time. Now, if I'm wrong, I don't badger myself over the head too much, because I can only do as well as the information that we have available to us, and with whatever I've been able to uncover so far. Looking at the numbers, sometimes you look at it and they'll say, yeah, there was this amount of people at this particular time in the early days after Adam and so on. And when people look at it in a different kind of way from outside the Torah, it seems that those numbers are wrong. Now, I got some figures here I was looking at so many websites, so I didn't want to take the time to make note of all the websites, so I won't actually read directly from the websites. But I'll just give some figures of what they said. In about 0 or let's say 1 AD, the population of Earth was about 170 million to about 300 million. Then I looked at Sumer, and of course, you can't really be sure of anything because everybody does their calculations different. But I just chose these numbers just as some general, I guess, from all that I was reading. Time of Sumer, the population of Sumer is said to have been between 800,000 and 1.5 million people. In around about 4000 BC, so you're talking somewhere around Garden of Eden or right after Garden of Eden, somewhere around there. Population of Earth, and I guess this would probably be around about the time of Sumer as well, or coming up to that time. But right after Eden, population of Earth, not just Eden now, or not just Sumer, but of the whole Earth, would have been in around 4000 BC, somewhere around 7 million. 7 million. Not 7 billion with a B as in Bob, but 7 million with M as in, money, I guess. Now, that's why I started out saying maybe the Creator made many people at the same time, because I don't understand how 7 million people would have been around on Earth so soon after Sumer, or in the time of the Garden of Eden, or right after Eden. Because then that would have put us somewhere on in the time of Adam's life, whether middle or closer to the end of his life, who knows. There's 7 million people on earth. How would the population of earth have grown that fast? If Adam was the only man that was created at the time when Genesis chapter 1 said Adam was made, and then the woman didn't just spring up out of the earth, she was taken from him, it said, some strange understanding right there. And then they had children, so population starts to grow, but it starts to decrease as the one called Cain killed his brother. So a significant drop now. If at that point there was only 4 of them, Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, then 1/4 of the population goes down because he killed Abel, his brother. And the scriptures show that there was some judgment put on Cain, but it doesn't say, like with the case of Noah's flood, that earth has corrupted its way. I mean, I would think at that point, earth would have corrupted its way for just one man alone to have been killed. This is the first man being killed. Didn't just fall and, like with an accident, and hit his head on a rock and passed away immediately. Somebody actually killed him. So it seems like earth there would have been corrupt at that point, more so than what Adam did, because this is the big thing. Somebody has killed someone on earth and have wiped out 1/4 of the population on earth. This is a big thing for the Creator, but it doesn't put it like that. Like with the time of Noah, it repenteth me I have made man, because all flesh has corrupted its way. I guess it's only one flesh that corrupted his way right here by killing one man. So 7 million people run about the time of Adam and coming out of Eden. But we don't have a big enough to do about God. It seems that if the God of the Torah, this Yahweh or Jehovah, just made us and put us on the earth, and people know him, even though they're kicked out of the garden, how is it possible that only this elite group of people, who would later be called patriarchs, forming a line up to the nation of Israel, how would they just be the only ones to know about God, or to mainly be dealing with God? See, I was taught to believe in the Israel of the scriptures, and I still do believe it strongly, but I'm not without my questioning, because it makes me wonder if the Israel of the scriptures, as so many others have brought out, is some kind of way to take away something I've mentioned before too. Last year I started talking about it. To take away the history of the quote-unquote African people, although Africa is a big place with different countries, or of the ancient Cushites, who were so great in a way that to this day I cannot see the children of Israel being that great. The only thing that makes me see the children of Israel being that great is just the miracles they do in the scriptures, but I see the miracles of the ancient Cushites and Egyptians and so on being left on earth in a real kind of physical way that you can still connect with today. The archaeological finds and so on, the greatness of their territories and the wars that they fought and so on, it can weave itself in and out of the scriptures, for instance, like with the Egyptians. But the children of Israel, or the nation of Israel, if it tries to weave its history outside of the Torah, it starts to dwindle, starts to go away. And so the main glory of Israel is on the pages of the Bible. If somebody never wrote the Bible, you would know little or nothing of these people. So I've told you a long time ago, as far as I'm concerned, it seems to me the Cushite, real ancient ones, or the Egyptians fit more under the title of the Israelite. That's what I think. I don't know how to prove it yet, and I'm not really digging into it right now, but it's something that I keep an eye open for, because it seems to me that the Cushites or the Egyptians were the Israelites, if these Israelites were real. I'll take flak for that as well. It just seemed to me like these people just, and I had a lesson I started working on for this, so I'll say more when I get to it. To me, it's just simple right now, and if I need to change it later, I'll change it later. That these people just simply changed their identity or their name as time went on, as they moved and conquered here, there, and moved on. Like if you get the Cushites now, they're going here, there. They just change their names. Every now and then they change themselves. They go find a new land, new territory. They go there. Their language starts to change a bit. They start to speak different. They become known as their own group. They're still Cushite, or they might still be Egyptian, and so on. But they start to talk different. Next thing you know, they they have their own dialect and so on. They might even make up their own language. And then they call themselves by a new name. These are these ancient Cushite tribes. And of these people, the Cushite Egyptians, the children of Israel were formed. Anyway, let me move on. It's just my thought. Because remember, you could hardly tell the difference between Ham and Shem, like they live together such like as one people, right? And so many people have questions about Shem, but how would so many people on earth, these 7 million, run about that very early time after Eden, that this God of creation and of the scriptures, with so many teachings that he gave by speaking to people, his prophets and his patriarchs and so on, how is it that people so easily ignored this God? I mean, Adam and Eve couldn't do more than just eat a little fruit before he notices, and he shows up and he's like, hey, I'm not going to stand for that. Cain, the next time, now Cain, he did something, this creator shows up, like you can't get away from him. And then you got Enoch, who they said walked with God, and in the extra biblical books are telling how he taught many people and so on. But these many people don't seem to become teachers themselves. It's like he infected them with some knowledge of the creator, but that infection was so weak that you didn't have many people who became like Enoch. He just had one or two other men here or there that became like him, like a Noah and an Abraham. I would think that 7 million people on the earth hearing about the Most High, except a few who might have come out of Cain. So take away a few out of the 7 million from Cain, you'd probably still be left with roughly 7 million still. 7 million people are hearing strong, dynamic words of wisdom and revelation from the Creator, who not long before had made man and placed him on the earth and made a Garden of Eden, this mysterious place of luxury, the likes of which no one has been able to duplicate ever. To the point where even after he destroyed it, you can't even find it. That's how this God moves. He builds it, you are awed at it. He destroys it, you can't connect with it anymore. You can't find it. He speaks and people are put out of the garden. He speaks again and a man is banished to the land of Nod, wherever that is. His word is so strong. It even says that in the book of Psalms, he spoke and it was done, commanded and it stood fast. He said, let there be, let there be. And everything just happens. So this same word comes out of his mouth. And he speaks his word. 7 million people are on the earth. And he's speaking his word. And it seems like at a certain point, only Enoch is carrying the swing. Adam mysteriously seemed to have dropped out of the picture real fast because he came out of Eden. Nothing in this guy moves him in a way where he wants to teach, so that Enoch would have been his student wishing to learn a little bit more from Adam. Enoch just rose out of almost nothingness and just becomes his own teacher, and everybody has him as the go-to guy for knowledge of God. Nobody gives a damn what Adam knew, as the only man who ever knew something before even Eve, the next person, the next human, came into existence. Adam, the only man according to the Torah, it seems, heard directly from God, but Enoch has the shit to teach. Adam, the only man to have ever heard and been taught by the Most High. But Enoch rises to be the go-to man for knowledge of God. Yet, with all of that, 7 million people who, even before they became 7 million, like right after Eden, when there was probably just 100 or 200 people coming from Adam, and as that grew and they married each other, whatever the case is, 500 people, 1,000 people, when it was small numbers like that, not yet in the millions. You're telling me that with such small numbers, like if you're living in a small village or a small town, you got like 2,000 people in that town, 5,000 people, like very small place, right? Or you get a smaller town, there's only one stoplight there, you know. You know, those little small towns where there's like one main street in the town. All the main stores are on that street, the supermarket, the gas station, the little pharmacy, and everything is on that one main street. You're driving through that town, you just stay in that street and you pass through it in 2 or 3 minutes. So when the earth was that small and a lot of people, a couple hundred people are living in that small town, the knowledge of God, having just been expelled from Eden with Adam and Eve, would have been extremely strong. Because like, look, if you get a pastor or some Israelite nuthead who got arrested for doing whatever and he was running a camp and so on, just because that person goes to prison doesn't mean that they don't know anything about God anymore. I mean, they've been studying the Bible for many, many years. Adam and Eve, they move out of Eden and they move out of Eden with the knowledge of God, and they don't infect the whole earth with the knowledge of God. People are growing up all around them, and a man pops up named Enoch that somehow might be descended from this special Adam who Eve came out of. But the knowledge of God comes out of Eden that is very, very strong. And nobody except Enoch really wants this knowledge. How can God, the Creator, be so resisted by these people in the hundreds and the thousands who later became 7 million around about that time? People can just so easily resist the knowledge or the presence of God. So maybe Cain resisted it because maybe he had some biological and spiritual disconnect, where his biology or his body disconnected from some proper connection, proper full and complete connection with the spirit, because maybe he fell and hit his head or something, I don't know. So he acted out and killed his brother, and okay, so let's excuse him, he did it. But everybody else was righteous on earth. There is no, according to the Torah understanding that I'm getting now, there is no other drive or spiritual impetus left on earth that can let the masses of the thousands or the millions of people desire God so much that it will overcome the evil of Cain. So that Cain's evil takes over the earth and people are killing everybody up until this day, dropping bombs and shooting and killing and stabbing people and so on. But the righteousness of God can only stay within one nation, the nation of Israel, who from the day they came out of Egypt, they were also slapped by the Most High with the word saying, you are evil from you came out of Egypt. This God can't get anybody to be dedicated to him. How is this God so easily ignored and resisted? So with this backdrop, talking about the Torah of Moses, people have resisted God so much that you might have an Enoch show up, and then later on you'll get an Abraham and Noah and so on. But most people on the earth don't care about this God. They don't have any affinity to this God. They don't trust him. They don't believe him. At least they certainly don't express it. It's not necessary to talk about it with any detail in the scriptures. But at one point it does say, and men began to call upon the name of the Lord. You're like, yeah, see, there it is. Men, that means a lot of people. But it's kind of funny because the focus of that is the name of the Lord and not that men began to call. They're pushing in the name right there. That's the way I see it. But in any case, even if you say the focus is that men were now faithful, how come right after that the Creator is telling you that all flesh has corrupted their way, now he's going to destroy the earth with a flood? Men on earth, so most men according to you, are now seeking the Lord, calling on the Lord, worshiping the Lord, and the result of that is that evil takes over their life. Can somebody just try to shake me to let me know this is not a dream? That I'm doing this for real when I'm recording this? Because I would think that religious devotion or religious acceptance, and you're paying attention to things religious and you're calling on God, you're worshiping on God, you go to all the prayer meetings, you don't miss the choir practice, you don't miss the prayer meetings and everything like that, you don't miss the services and the Sabbath meetings and so on. But you become so extremely evil, not a little evil with all those things you're doing, and then you just slip and you become a little whatever and then you repent. But you become so extremely evil for having such strong religious devotion that men began to call on the earth in general, on the Lord, and evil takes over the earth. So why should I bother to seek after God? If the whole earth is, except Cain, is calling on the Lord, but the earth still becomes evil, doesn't that tell me that I should start to think if calling on God brings evil? Because he's going to destroy the whole earth and me in it, because I'm not one of Noah's family members. So I'm calling on the Lord with the men on the earth that are doing that, but I'm going to get killed because no calling on the Lord saves my family line, my house, my relatives, and my friends who are always over at my house, and I'm teaching them the scriptures, or I'm teaching them the knowledge of God if there were no scriptures at the time. I'm teaching them the knowledge of the Lord, and only Noah gets saved. I just don't get it. See, I'm not trying to be anti-Torah. I'm trying to be a man. And men should think about their existence. You shouldn't read it in a book and believe it without questioning the life out of it. If it's got any life in it, the life cannot be extracted from it and divorced from it. The life will remain in it. The truth will remain in it, and that truth will lead you the right way. So tell me why men are calling on the name of the Lord. You get your big church meeting, you set up a crusade to draw up many people to the worship of the Lord. And the love of God increases. But men call in droves worldwide on the name of the Lord in Genesis. And earth goes downhill. And you tell me something's wrong with my thinking. Check your thinking. So like I was saying now, with this backdrop, the whole earth is corrupt. And you got all this history there of how the Creator, Yahweh or Jehovah, set up all this stuff, and nobody knows about this stuff apparently to want to document it or write it down and so on. And nobody becomes famous for this knowledge of the creation and exactly how it was done until long after creation, and the first man, Moses, is born, comes on the scene, and learns from the Egyptians. Moses becomes famous for all this ancient knowledge. So if Moses learned all this information from the people who were before him and became a worldwide sensation and became the guy that the Torah is credited to, and he has all this knowledge that he learned, because it was strong and powerful information, then Moses becomes famous for it. Why did no one become famous and powerful from that knowledge that Moses learned from them? Because it wasn't anything special about Moses himself that let him become so widespread and well known. If he wasn't written in the Torah, he wouldn't have become that well known. It's not like he was a great fighter himself that did great things like some other people. Yeah, sure, he led them to war and so on, but it's not like, you know. But anybody who had the knowledge before that they taught to Moses, because he learned from the Egyptians, and he was seeking wisdom from Midianite priests later on and so on. So he had a lot of learning from the people who were around him. So the people who were before Moses was even born, why did no one feel that the earth should get this information that's written in the Torah that we call the Torah? Why did no one want to write this Torah and to tell all these things? Why did no one want that kind of fame? So that when you mention Enuma Elish and every other thing out there that you want to mention, these other records, we all strike them down. No, the Torah is it. The Torah is before. I'm not going to fight you on that. But since the information in the Torah about the Eden and the Genesis creation and so on, and the early chapters of Genesis, early parts of the Torah, was powerful information, and it was there before Moses was born, the knowledge. How could this information have been kept wrapped up and locked up for so long that wars are being fought by these different kings who ended up forming Sumer right after Eden? If they're fighting like that, obviously somebody wanted to be a stronger king. If they're fighting over land and territory, somebody wanted to be more powerful and so on. If the Torah is the word of the Creator and is the most powerful kind of law on the Creator and the most powerful kind of knowledge on earth, why did none of these kings want to become famous from this knowledge that became known as the Torah? Why? If you possess the knowledge of the Creator, that's going to make even Israel become a powerful and great nation later. And it's going to make Moses so famous and so on. You are the only one on earth that knows what Adam witnessed. How come no one was that selfish enough when selfish people already existed, because Cain slew Abel? And like I said, the different kings were fighting and so on. Why did no one want to use that for power when people are setting up thrones for the first time before anybody even in Eden knew what a throne was? People knew that they should set themselves up in a powerful manner. Nobody wanted to spread and own this information and be the go-to person. But somehow when Moses is born, whoever has the information just feels that it should be all credited to Moses. Give it all to him. Don't explain how exactly he got the information. Just give it all to Moses and let Moses write it for the new nation, the children of Israel. But the Cushites are there before. The Egyptians are there. They don't get to own and claim the Torah knowledge. Moses gets to claim it all for the new nation of Israel. Even though before there was an Israel, the knowledge was there because it was taught to Moses. So it would have been there in the hands of the Cushites or the Egyptians or somebody else had that information as a part of their empire or of their kingdom or their group of people. It does not make them famous, and they are not credited with the knowledge. But Israel becomes a new nation on earth coming out of Egypt, and all of the knowledge gets credited to them. The Torah of Moses, I'm not trying to hate the Torah, but something does not add up. Why wasn't this information that's called the Torah, before Moses came along, called an Egyptian or a Sumerian or an African chronicle or something like that? Why did it have to be called the Torah of Israel? The knowledge of this creation and so on. He created the earth in 7 days, 6 days, 7 day rested and so on. Nobody can get credited for this who existed before the nation of Israel. As soon as an Israel is formed, it becomes theirs. Yeah, sure, they'll tell you patriarchs, but it really becomes the knowledge and the power of the nation of Israel. And what about all the people who actually helped to preserve the knowledge, who started writing it down? The people in, what about the people in China? What about the people in Mesopotamia? What about the people in the Indus Valley who were starting to write? Like, don't they get credited for this knowledge? Somebody, these ancient races, these ancient people who were there before Israel, why are they not credited with the Torah of Moses? Because they taught me when I was a child growing up that God gave all the information to Moses on Mount Sinai because he was up there a long time. Now that I've grown up, I realize that the Torah of Moses really was there with all the creation story and so on. Unless it's all made up. It was there in other people's knowledge. Even in the walls of Egypt and so on, they had this knowledge. The Nubians, Cushites, Egyptians. But Moses and the children of Israel become famous for all of this knowledge. And it's published worldwide in a book that you'll buy for $59.99 plus your tax and shipping. You call it the Bible or the Torah. And people make money off the sale of that. But it's published as your Bible and sent all around the world in a way where the ancient Cushites don't get any credit for it. The people who we might call the ancient Africans or the ancient Hamites, they don't get any credit for it. But if you want to go and prove that the Torah is true, you go and you look in the works left behind of the ancient Hamites and Cushites and so on. The megaliths of the Cushites. You go and you prove things about ancient history, development and writing and so on, and archaeology and so on. You look at all this stuff. These people were up and running, had a big life, big kingdom that was spreading itself and so on. They don't get credit for any of this stuff, but Moses comes on the scene, drags a group of people out of Egypt, who, as far as I'm concerned, may well, but can't prove it, have been Egyptians themselves or Cushites themselves, Nubians themselves. But they don't get the credit. The book is written in a way where the children of Israel, as a new nation, gets all the credit, and they are made sure to be shown as new so that it can also be seen at the same time that the older peoples like the Egyptians and the Nubians and so on don't stand a chance in the lineup of anything great from God. They've got no favor with God because He's making a new nation, the children of Israel. I can't understand that. It's not for lack of faith or lack of trying. My mind can't understand it. It's not like in a New Testament way to say, I'm trying to be a doubting Thomas. My brain just can't tolerate it. My brain I can't understand it. But I bet you if I was just willing to be like the old me, just have faith and believe in God, believe in the scriptures because it was handed down to us unchanged, I would understand every last word and letter of it all. As faith explains everything, doesn't it? While reality and history are sacrificed.